G'day guys, welcome back to WCS Summer. I am Maynard and with me is my French friend Todd. And we've got ourselves a TvZ coming up between Big Gabe, aka HeroMarine, versus SortOf, aka Mechanics Bergman.
The Meisterschaft, the kingpin
That's right.
of the meltdown in Cologne, going up against the Mechanics himself. And I expect some good macro games here. A lot of bases being taken and units clashing all over the place. And a bloodbath in the world's
And the highest mechanics you've ever seen in StarCraft 2.
Oh yeah, like don't turn on that APM tab. We don't want the equipment to catch on fire.
We don't want to all feel bad as players of the game to see the APM levels that we just can't be hit. And it's not just APM, Todd, it's EAPM.
Yeah.
Because of how accurate these kids are.
Imagine if there was a mechanics tab.
A mechanics tab?
Yeah, that's we just
I would
have
never
to put
open it on my stream.
And
People will be in chat, they're like, hey, at Maynard, can you show me the mechanics tab? I'll be like, banned. Mods,
that word is banned in my chat.
Mods, this guy's making problems. Can we just get this guy banned real quick?
A really big matchup between these two here in the round of 16.
Yeah, this is a big one. Of course, Gabe, pretty favored here. HeroMarine, very, very much favored. He's been looking very, very strong in a lot of his WCS showings. He's been incredibly high level on the ladder as well.
Where's this guy jumping? Sit down, the match is starting.
Get in your seat. Get in front of that screen and let's get into it. We're actually inside game number 1, guys. Just moments away from getting into the action. The German Terran up against the Swedish Zerg. SortOf been practicing quite a bit in Korea, so his mechanics have never been sharper than they are right now. He's also looking good in those tight-fitting team shirts.
I like blue. And SortOf's a great nickname as well.
It is. It's sort of great. Let's get into it. And it's up right here in the blue, which Todd likes so very much. This is Mal Sports' HeroMarine. We don't have any Russian casters. We actually lost our Russian commentary.
I think they weren't ready, actually.
And in the bottom left here, in the red, the Swedish Zerg. This is SortOf.
All right. New repugnancy here, our first map. And like I said, I kind of expect both players to go up to 3 bases, 4 bases. I don't expect crazy cheeses out of this series, even though I feel like it would be more on HeroMarine's side if he wanted to try something like that. But he's usually a little too proud to throw in, too many very aggressive builds. Whereas SortOf is one of those Zergs, like, if there is some corners that you can cut to make sure that you get ahead economically because he doesn't cheese enough, he's like one of those few Zergs that I think you should maybe do it against.
HeroMarine is one of those players that seems to have an almost stubborn mindset, but a mindset that works out for him. So it's not really like a bad thing at all. But he has sort of the mindset that there is a best way to play matchups, a strongest way to play certain styles that he will generally just play and really not really shake it up or get too crazy. He's not really one of the most creative players in the whole world, but just very, very good at those meta builds, at battle mech, at bio tank, and just vanilla mech in general. Very, very solid.
You know what's funny? He's like often very critical of his opponent's builds because, sometimes they'll play very aggressive. They'll throw like an all-in here and there, somewhere in there. But now he's facing a guy that doesn't all-in very much, that plays straight up, a mechanic-relying style. So you can't be critical of that style, right? Like, if he loses, like, it has to be straight up. Like, you couldn't have too much criticism about it. So that's going to be interesting to see if SortOf can do well and how HeroMarine would think about it in this case. But so far, it's just going to be the one Reaper doing a little bit of harassment on the other side of the map. Hasn't been able to do really much of anything. Hasn't killed a unit yet.
No, it's just mainly for scouting here, and good micro from SortOf to keep those Lings alive for the most part here. They get pretty well damaged. And he's also covering that Reaper cliff, so HeroMarine can't dart through that mineral line, then jump down to that low ground where he's sending the Reaper right now. SortOf trying to catch the Reaper if it does try and hop back up. New Repugnancy is one of those maps that's actually it's actually not too bad for Terran against Zerg here, because you have a lot of cliffs and a lot of really good tank positions as well later on.
How do you like the Crypt Tumor location?
That Crypt Tumor location? Oh, they'll connect the third and the natural a little bit quicker.
Yeah, very nicely done actually.
HeroMarine trying to stop the drone from being able to take that third, certainly slowing it down. You want to get that third at like 2.5 minutes, and HeroMarine slowed that thing down to 3:20, almost a minute delay on this natural hatchery.
Yeah, he's
third hatchery.
He's really delaying that super well right now, but eventually gonna have to give it up. Yeah, SortOf with the zoning out from the Queen, gets that down. Some nicely placed overlords, by the way, through every single avenue that HeroMarine could come in from. Like, there's one here at the top, one in the center, and one at the bottom. So he's got all of his space covered in terms of being able to spot these Hellions and the one Reaper here to make sure he doesn't take any damage ideally from these, and the creep spread is in full effect. Maynard, Overlord's gonna fly into the main base on the other side to try and spot the starport.
Now, I was already a fan of HeroMarine, but I'm an even bigger fan right now. We've got a battlecruiser opening here, Todd, and it doesn't look like the Overlord of SortOf is going to see it. But he does see that there's a starport with nothing on the Tech Lab building. Normally, if this is a normal 1-1-1 with the Tech Lab, Cloak's on the way and a Viking or a Banshee's on the way. So this actually might be enough information from SortOf to know that it is a battlecruiser opening. Even though HeroMarine tried to trick him by starting up a Liberator, the BC is on the way.
And he's already got quite a few queens. He's already up to 5 with 1 more on the way. So he's, you know, kind of getting ready. Like, SortOf is one of those guys that trains a lot. I'm sure he's faced this many times. Like, so we'll see exactly how well he can react to this. Behind this, wouldn't be surprised if HeroMarine went into a fairly quick 3rd command center, as again, he's one of these, you know, great macro guys. Actually drops down 2 additional barracks first and foremost here to keep up with his economy and the production here of the back of this. So how many battle cruisers do you think is the ideal number if you want to go for this build?
I think it depends on how well the Zerg is handling them. Like, if your first battlecruiser gets really well deflected, like there's too many spore crawlers, too many queens, then you just pull out of the battlecruiser strategy and go heavier into the factory units and bio
But you have to decide before that, no? Like, wouldn't you? So if you start a 2nd battlecruiser and the first one's doing really bad, you cancel the
You have about 30 minutes before the next battlecruiser pops out because of how long it takes to build. So you can actually just cancel it and get your money back.
30 minutes, come on, they're not carriers.
Well, that first BC is out, and it's actually switching off from the starport immediately, so he only intends to get the 1. And you know what? SortOf actually doesn't have a read on this battlecruiser tech. He doesn't have that many spore crawlers or that many queens covering these mineral lines.
Yeah, they're kind of out of position, so I guess that scout... he was like very wary about the Hellions. Like, obviously you have to be careful. Actually, that 3rd base is the one exposed now because the queens are going towards the main base. Obviously, he still has the links as well. The creep spread is massive in taking the information too. And that battlecruiser is on the rampage.
Certainly is. The Queen's coming in from the natural and 3rd base to try and damage it, but there's plenty of dead space here under repugnancy for that battlecruiser to escape, and he's going straight into tank production. Reactor on the starport to stick again. There's Medevacs out. Very strong start here for Gabe, and of course the BC still being alive means that it can just be a nuisance later on in the game and even just pick off Overlords.
Oh, you want some too, Overlord? You're in the wrong place.
Come get some. There's a nice little bit of creep cancelling there from SortOf. He saw that the Hellions were hitting the edge of that creep, didn't want to lose those tumors, so that was a nice little move from him. But he's certainly taken a little bit of damage in the early game, and look how much further along the upgrades are for the Terran here. +1 attack, over halfway done.
Yeah, so the 3rd command center is really delayed. Like, HeroMarine's going for additional barracks before anything here. Yeah, I'm really surprised.
This actually looks like a big 2-base attack, Todd.
Yeah. And I think, like, out of somebody like SortOf, like I said, you can expect the 4th base, the macro, and the 4th hatchery is there on location, kind of far away from the main base. Maybe that's where he's going to want to put the emphasis on the push, as he's getting 1 more tank here. So maybe like a 3-tank push or something like that? What do you think?
I think the main thing that he's going to have here, considering the amount of production he has, is just a ton of bio units. So the tanks obviously do help a ton for that splash damage. These spore crawlers really not helping at all. They're right on the edge of the main base here. So the Queens are going to have to do it themselves. And the tactical jump is off cool down here, so that thing can just zip on back home. Baneling's connecting with some of the Marines here.
Oh, he didn't choose the tactical jump. He lost the BC.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
To the Queens in the main base.
That's a pretty big blunder there from HeroMarine, but he is still putting on a lot of damage at the front, so it might not matter. Baneling's coming in for the south, SortOf. Oh, just a hot pick up there from HeroMarine to save those Marines and pull on back out of the action. But of course, that's just wave 1. We got 7 Marines at a time being made back at home here for HeroMarine.
Yeah, that was weird. I guess he was obviously looking elsewhere, but it's pretty important not to lose that cruiser. It's your precious.
It is your precious. Pulls on back there. 1-1 nearly done for the Zerg. +1 attack is done for these Marines. Medevac's still alive as well, and HeroMarine's going for that big 2-base push.
Yeah, so if you look at units lost, like, it obviously would feel a lot better if you hadn't lost that 1 BC and had repaired it for the
Still looks good for the Terran, though.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Are you lost, Queens?
Wrong part of town, sister. Creep Trim is getting taken down to the front here, and HeroMarine can start to move those tanks closer and closer. Combat Shield seconds away from getting done. 10 more hit points in every single one of the Marines, and there are oh so many. The Banelings sort of rethinking themselves here. They're down quite a bit in army supply. The Terran with a massive pre-spread of units. Look at this big pre-spread of Marines from Big Gabe.
He's not even scanning. He's at home.
This is my house. Oh, I like this one SortOf to try and pick off those reinforcements with the Lings. He is going to get a little bit of damage done. A tank pick off some Marines, that's great. But is the front door going to be cleaned up? The Banelings rolling on through that tank field, looking for the Marine connections, but the split is too good. Very little Marines, if any, dying there. And SortOf is going to be folding to the pressure here of the German Terran, doing too much damage. GG. HeroMarine getting a clean game 1.
Such precision with his timing here.
Very much surgically done there.
Very well done by the German Terran. This is kind of, you know, what we expect, I think, going into this series. the experience, the confidence from HeroMarine really showing here in this game number 1 as sort of, this is what he's known for. Just macro, get some drones. But the defense just wasn't good enough to really allow him to propel himself into the mid-game with 4 bases, a good drone count, and enough units. And to be honest, if this surprised me, I'm not surprised that SortOf didn't expect this, because out of HeroMarine, what do you expect? A 3rd command center, pretty early. A 3rd base, macro, more E-base, more upgrades. But no, HeroMarine's like, you know what? I'm going to deny the information by killing your first overlord, and then I'm going to keep you busy with the 1 battlecruiser. What will you not expect? Me not to get a 3rd command center, a ton of bio units, march across the map, and do a crazy push.
There is very little scarier in tournaments than a player that's so good at macro and has been known for macro for so long that has learned some really strong all-ins. Something that's unexpected, something that hits really, really hard, a sharp timing attack. I mean, the only thing that sucked for HeroMarine is that he lost a battlecruiser, but other than that, that was clean as a whistle.
Yeah, that push just looked unstoppable. Like, it was not even close. He had so many Marines, he pre-split. Kind of like in the Bomber-esque fashion, didn't even scan. He's like, you know what, I'll use more mules for the time being. What I really like about this build, too, is that, like, as long as you do damage, even if this doesn't work, you can still fly your main orbital to a new base and keep up with the pressure and more attacks. But obviously, there is a lot on the line when you do that first big push. You need to do damage. You need to trade really well.
Yeah, strong game from HeroMarine. Great start here. SortOf is a veteran, though, a very storied pro gamer. He's got the mindset to be able to shake that off and continue along. SortOf's one of those guys that's been around for a really long time, but hasn't been able to sort of crack that round of 16, round of 8 line that HeroMarine's actually managed to break through several times in his career.
Oh, he has, but a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, way back in the day for sure.
Yeah. I remember the one DreamHack, he made it to the semis.
Yep.
But yeah, sadly since then, hasn't had the success that he was looking for. So let's see here if he can stay focused, if he can come back stronger. In that map number 2, we're going to be playing on Acropolis here.
Yeah, this is a much better map for ZVT on the Zerg's favor. A bit of a hard map for Terran for the most part. But they do have some strats catered for this map in particular. We'll see if he goes for it. And it's up left here in the blue, represented by Mouse Sports. This is the German Terran, HeroMarine. Alex is having a chat here. I think he's reading an essay to the crowd. And
it's not Alex, but this guy's telling his life story.
And at the bottom right here, the Swedish Zerg in the red. This is SortOf.
All right. So we got just standard openers so far. We're going to have the hatchery first here from SortOf. And I mean, I really thought that he was going to be more ready for the battlecruiser because he was getting so many queens. But you were right. Not seeing the fusion core is really kind of what made him not know about this. Like, and he was so worried about the Hellions at the front. And I mean, it is worrying. Like, you have like 6+ Hellions and a Reaper at the front of your base, like at the edge of the creep. You have to worry about them kind of running in and frying a lot of drones.
Indy's really interested in the fact that the Overlord goes through this terrain here. He's like, guys, look, this is so interesting. I was like, okay, Indy.
Sick call out.
Like, yeah. Yeah, that's an Overlord, all right. Yeah, well spotted. It's the second one. Very nice.
Shots fired.
Yeah, no, love to Andy, though. This guy is the only observer we have this tournament. He's been working so hard. He's been observing long days here, and he's got a long day ahead of him and another long day tomorrow.
He's got a third of the workload that Mapu has at Home Story Cup, so I don't think we can praise him too much.
Andy needs to get that Home Story Cup observer shift baptism of fire.
All right, SortOf. This game, he needs to get the clean scout in case HeroMarine was to do something a little bit more on the extreme side of things, like we saw in the last game with the one battlecruiser. I wonder actually, like, after you see one battlecruiser, you also kind of would like to know whether there's a second one on the way, right? Because otherwise you just kind of like keep on making queens, which would be good against small battlecruisers, but bad against everything else. Then again, I guess when you reach like, let's say 5 to 6 queens, you're kind of set already against the initial one.
Yeah. The strong thing about the battlecruiser opening is that even if it does get deflected, it's a constant threat, and it actually can be part of your push later as well. Because it's just a really tanky air unit with tons of armor points, and if you research weapons refit or Yamato cannon, that thing will one-shot queens, and it'll really damage the static defense as well. Look, HeroMarine really wants that creep tumor, but unfortunately doesn't connect with it, doesn't pick it off. And the thing that makes this map a little bit tough for Terran, that it's actually really hard to get like Hellion run-bys and stuff like that. That makes, big open naturals can sometimes be great for Terran in that regard. I mean, you do get a pretty safe third base at least.
That was funny, by the way, that Reaper. It was like low on HP, the Queen turned around. He's like, don't turn your back on me.
Where are you going? The Reaper here for the Terran just regenerating its hit points, still being... The most important thing is that it is alive. And the one thing that Terran's got against Zerg on this map is that there are a lot of Reaper ledges and a lot of easy paths into the main base for the Reaper. Yeah, the Protoss can actually wall off with a single pylon on these ledges, but not so much for the Zerg.
What was the ultimate mind game that HeroMarine could do here? Prevent the scouting from the Overlord, go for the same Hellions that he did last game, and I was going to say, not do Battlecruiser, and then SortOf would be very worried about this, but he actually drops down another fusion core here. Same push or quick third command center this time? I guess like maybe he doesn't have to make up his mind that early.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Overlord coming in here for SortOf, and usually when this tech lab finishes, you can get Cloak and a Banshee right away. So that might be telling for SortOf again.
Yeah. But there's the whole mind game of, is he going to do it again, or is he going to trick me and start Cloak now in a Banshee?
Yeah. I mean, at this high level, you really don't want an extra Spore Crawler if you don't need it, for sure. That's why you will often see just the minimum amount of Spore Crawlers to deal with Banshee harassment. Generally, the natural doesn't even have Spore Crawlers because the third and the main are usually the most vulnerable.
And the crazy thing is, extra scouting won't even help you in terms of having stuff around your base because it's tactical jumping across the map. So you could spread out as many Overlords as you want, crazy spread. It's going to jump on your side of the map.
The most popular jump spot here on this map is between the natural and the third base, because the battlecruiser can just escape to the north and carpet bomb those drones to safety. It's like
carpet bomb them?
Yeah, just pew them on the way through. It cruises and battles now.
I like that.
With that Reaper coming in the main day, sees the layer timing, so that's a good scout there for the Reaper. Oh, third base left a little bit open, but HeroMarine rethinking the Hellion strat.
Yeah.
There's actually not too much of a standing army for SortOf. He primarily just has Queens.
And this time he went for the third command center, which I really like. Didn't even add additional barracks first. Just straight up that third command center. He took two more gases, two more refineries.
Yeah, I actually think...
And he starts Yamato.
I actually think this might be a mech follow-up here for HeroMarine, as he's getting those extra gases nice and early here, and probably going to keep that battlecruiser train pumping here, making sure there's many of them out there harassing the Zerg. First BC moments away from being completed. He does lose one Hellion there to the Queens.
All right, let's follow that BC here.
Yeah, second BC is queued up. So
Where are you going to?
I mean, usually between the natural and the third is a good spot.
Between main and natural now he went. So there's kind of a spore around that area, but there's no spore in the main base to move there. And the Queens are out of position again. SortOf.
I think that because the Hellions knew where the Queens were, right? Because he's attacking down there at the third base, so you send your Queens down there to deal with the Hellions, and then you just send the BC where the Queens are not. This BC is going to take a ton of damage, Todd. Let's see if this thing escapes.
Yeah, that spore was at the back here. I think he didn't see it.
Oh, I think it might be just surviving here. Damn, that's close. Really tilting for the Zerg when that happens. It just survives.
Wow. 34 hit points, 6 kills on that one battlecruiser that gets away. He's going to be able to head on back home, repair that, and then head out again. Actually, a nice follow-up scout from SortOf. He just sent a Ling at the front, and he saw additional Hellions. So he might kind of be able to tell already that this could be a mech build. Because obviously, like, he hasn't had any follow-up Overlords kind of flying and get any scout. Yeah, so he sends one more Ling right now. I like that. He's consistently trying to scout. He wants to make sure he knows what he's up against exactly.
So there are some Terrans out there that like to play a Baron on this map, in my opinion. I think mech is actually quite strong on this map. There's some really nice choke points that you can own when you have a great number of siege tanks. And considering that HeroMarine is going for double armory here, it might be vanilla mech, but certainly battle mech is a lot more popular at the moment in the meta.
Wow, this is crazy actually. Upgrade-wise, like he's going to be starting this so early. And I would say Banelings are not the units you really want against this, right? Like, against mech for a long time, it was all about, you know, getting roaches and all that. Then it kind of, like, people got so much better. They discovered stuff like Swarm Host and exactly to play them against mech. The power of Vipers, which are very important too. And with the infestation pit on the way, it's a good hint that SortOf knows when he needs to be getting here.
The Hellions and Battlecruisers joining up here. Like I said, the Battlecruiser survives, and it is a force for your push as well.
I guess the Yamato's the Queens?
Yeah, the Yamato's for the Queens. Certainly, the Banelings need to be split with these Hellbats, but they already have so many hit points. They're just tanking the front line here, and they are still a problem for SortOf. He's lost a lot of his Queens, and Hydralisks actually suck against Battlecruisers, Todd. The BC is going to start carving through here. We got a run by, but there are Hellbats back at home for Big Gabe dealing with the Lings. The Natural's a different story. He's taking a bit more damage there, but it's only denied mining time, and no cancel on the hatchery. SortOf losing the fourth base. SortOf falling apart at the seams here.
And that, I mean, that counter-attack did almost nothing. It killed 4 SCVs and everything else got sniped here. And there are tactical jumps available, so even like this, like HeroMarine is like fully confident he's not going to lose any of these battlecruisers here. That was such a good trade for him.
And keep in mind that these upgrades for the mech units are also making these battle cruisers more armored as well. So they get the ship weapon, or rather the ship units are also getting those armor upgrades. So that's pretty nice as the Hellions are getting a little bit more upgrades. And as we see, it is vanilla mech, just Hellion tank, not Hellion Cyclone.
Oh, I think he's going to go for Cyclones because he's getting mech field accelerator and he's making a bunch of tech labs in the main
That
base.
is true, that is true. So the tank's looking just for defense for now. It's kind of weird. Like if you see a lot of Hydralisks, you definitely want more tanks than you want Cyclones.
Yamato's almost up, but
yeah, almost. This looks so annoying for the Zerg to deal with. A lot of Hydras though. Getting on top of these BCs. Tactical jump.
yeah, he's going to have to jump before he can use Yamato again.
Peace out.
Almost a shame.
Oh, that's bold, but gonna get away with it.
Peace. I'm out of here.
See you soon after a nice repair here at the third base. So I think that actually, as we speak about bases, that's the only thing missing for HeroMarine here is a fourth base, but certainly it's not going to be too long away. In fact, the fourth is being built, or actually it's a fifth CC, as the fourth is being built down here in the natural.
I think SortOf's best chance is going to have to come through some miracle infestor play, like we see him getting pathogen glands right now. Some good fungal, some good neural parasite maybe.
Well, that's the thing, like infestors are really good against battle mech. And this actually might be a deliberate bamboozle from HeroMarine. If he just keeps making Hellions and tanks, the infestors are actually not going to be that super great anymore. The tanks really annihilate them.
He's only got 5 tanks right now, so we'll see if he keeps on making more of those, or if he focuses more on Cyclones and Hellions.
Baneling run by doing a little bit of damage there.
It worked.
Kind of, yes. It did damage, technically. And the VC still being a massive threat here for
he sent that ahead. He sent one ahead.
Got a scouting BC with the
just for one Yamato.
Backside. Well, you know, Yamato's got free damage, man. It's something that doesn't get broken unless you actually kill the battlecruiser before it fires.
He spotted the infestors. That's very important because now he has to be extra careful.
Yeah, I think that he's forcing out the infestors and he's just going to keep making tanks, which is exactly what he's doing. He's not making any more Cyclones. It's just tanks, just Hellions, and soon going to be heading towards Starport and getting that air army as well, or even just into Thor's, which is one of the strongest things you can do against this Spire follow-up, which, you know, SortOf is almost certainly going to go for this Greater Spire Broodlord follow-up here. We're seeing SortOf cam here, first person, checking out that mini-map and getting those infestors ready to fight. The Ling run by here before the planetary is finished, but plenty of Blue Flame Hellions mean the Lings aren't going to do too much at all.
Yeah, I mean, every single one of those Ling run by has been shut down perfectly here by HeroMarine, always on point. We don't need to see his eye tracker to know he's looking everywhere.
Everywhere at once. That's what I think. Like, if we ever get to see Cyril's eye tracker, it'll just be one big blob in the middle of the screen. Actually, won't be moving around at all. He's omnipresent. So we are seeing a few more Cyclones here from HeroMarine, which is going to be handy against the Corrupt account when it gets out a little bit further in the game. But
the creep spread has been denied a decent amount, by the way, right?
Yeah,
because like it's not really going anywhere right now.
Well, I mean, the BCs themselves have actually been doing a great job with the creep spread, just barreling on through, carpet bombing down that creep. And this is a scary army for SortOf to deal with. He doesn't have any Vipers. He has Infestors, a lot of Hydralisks, and a lot of Lings. But this army is built for killing all of that stuff.
It feels like Vipers, right, would help a good amount.
Absolutely. I don't think SortOf knows that there's this much of a tank count. He sees it now.
He's getting Corruptors right now.
Yeah, he has to get into Broodlords. He needs something to deal with the tanks. This army doesn't deal with a massive tank count.
He might try to use the mobility of his army to try and, you know, buy time here to get stronger units. Because tanks are not that fast.
They certainly aren't. And that base does need to be lifted here. HeroMarine losing a lot of SCVs.
Oh my God, the Yamato.
Down. That's a dead infestor right there, and the Hellions are actually chasing down the Hydras as well. Fungal goes down. He could go for Neurals as well. He has energy on the infestors, but he just gets Yamato'd. One infestor survives, and these Hydras are getting chased back by +1 attack upgraded Hellions.
Yeah, some big Yamato were thrown down there. I think he's down to 1 single infestor, and might be 0 soon if that guy doesn't start on running home. Corruptors, Queens are in position. SortOf, he needs to have a hold here.
Oh, this is unfortunate.
Where are you? You're drunk.
That's a full energy infestor going down there. SortOf just really starting to fall apart a bit. HeroMarine is right in his face with an army that doesn't look like it can be stopped. This tank count is way too high. There are no Blinding Clouds for the Zerg, no Vipers, no nothing.
Look at the supply. The Terran using mech has more supply than the Zerg right now. SortOf struggling to hold on.
And he's going to try his best of sorts. The Corruptors can deal with the battlecruisers for the most part. They tactical jump out of there. Meanwhile, the tanks and the Hellions combined are just tearing apart the Zerg on the ground. This does not look holdable at all for SortOf. He's trying his best, but even the Cyclones getting amongst it, getting rid of some of these Corruptors, less Broodlord potential. There's actually only 3 Broodlords on the way here for SortOf, and that is just not convincing.
Yeah, I mean, the damage has already been dealt here. That hatchery is going to die. HeroMarine can pull back if he wants to. He's on 5 bases. His economy being left untouched in the meantime here, while all of this was happening.
Yeah, he sees the Broodlords. Might be getting some Thors here, but it looks like he's happy to just use the Cyclones for their anti-Broodlord countermeasures. I like Thors a lot more, but honestly at this point, HeroMarine can do whatever he wants. He's so far ahead, he's just going to send in the tanks for a bit more damage, leaving them unsieged to just DPS through those Broodlings. But of course, they are slowly going to go down to the Broodlings over time. So he
double the army supply for HeroMarine, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, he's super far ahead here. I don't actually see how SortOf gets this game in the bag. I mean, maybe if HeroMarine doesn't respect the Broodlord count and he just keeps losing the Cyclones to the Infestors and the Broodlords, then maybe. But this looks very rough.
You saw resources lost, by the way?
I missed it.
Like, he was slightly cost-effective here.
Whoa.
Oh my god, this is so rare to see a game like this. Like, you got such good trades the whole game.
Yeah, that is a good game for Terran right there. 3-3 on the way for the mech army. This thing is upgraded. It hits so hard, and this is such a tough spot for those tanks to be dug out of when he sieges up here. This is so rough for SortOf. He's got those Infestors, he's got those Broodlords. The Battlecruiser's coming in to deal with the Broods. They Yamada them down, and he's down to 3 Broods here with a couple Corruptors in the sky. I think it's just going to be an A-move victory here for HeroMarine as he takes the 2-0 and is already on match point here against the Swedish Zerg.
Very convincing from Big Gabe here, showing why we thought he was the favorite. A regular on the WCS circuit. A lot of deep runs and looking for yet another one.
SortOf and Big Gabe haven't faced each other since 2018, so it's been quite a while. They don't see each other at tournaments too often, even being, you know, it feels like the European players have got such a history together. Like every single player's got a history against the other.
But at the same time, there's so many good players that you can't play all of them, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
If you lose to one of them, then that's it.
And it's unfortunate that SortOf's not being able to play his best games here on stage. You know, he's a very good player. We've seen him play incredibly clean games. But that game on Acropolis, a few mistakes, a few misreads. Even in game 1, the misread on the BC is doing a little bit too much damage. And just not able to get the job done against the plan of HeroMarine. HeroMarine keeps having a game plan every single game, and SortOf lets him get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like SortOf's not ready for the first battlecruiser in particular. Like, the Spores weren't in the best key position. The Queens were too far at the front, focusing exclusively on the Hellions. And that was well done on HeroMarine. You know, he's the one forcing those mistakes. Without the Hellions at the front, obviously, there's a lot less of a threat, and then the Queens could defend so much more easily. But as soon as you start losing a bunch of drones and are forced to go into a lot of Spores, it's weird because it feels like it's almost like, you know, the TvZ build, right? You open Stargate to force Spores, to prevent walkers from being made all the time, to force more units, in this case, Queens, as opposed to Lings on the ground. And it works out very well. Like, everybody has perfected that style where you can't let the Zerg player drone up too much.
It's a 400 mineral, 300 gas oracle that can teleport and has so many armor. It's a good unit.
Great example.
And the bottom right here in the blue on match point, the German Terran looking to get into the next round. This is Mal Sports' HeroMarine. And in the top left in the red, the Swedish Zerg against the ropes. This is SortOf.
Gonna have to adjust better here to the opponent of his opponent. Make sure he minimizes those losses, because we know that if SortOf can kick it into full gear, you know, get a fourth base running, reach the ideal drone count that he wants to go for, he's a very scary player. But he hasn't been able to do that so far. Every single aggression that's been thrown his way has done more damage than it feels it should have. And again, that's credit to HeroMarine, but SortOf, I think he's definitely capable of handling those early game attacks better.
A super greedy opening here from HeroMarine. You don't see it every day. And he's going for the CC first here on King's Cove. Bad news for SortOf here is that King's Cove is actually one of the best maps in the map pool for this battlecruiser mech style that HeroMarine showed us in the last game in Acropolis. But, and I mean, there's even money that we're going to see another battlecruiser in this game. Like, Big Gabe keeps getting so much damage done with it, there's no reason for him to do anything else. But maybe he has a specific strategy for this map that's different.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like such a small thing too, like to do the thing that's not really expected, right? You mentioned it's good to do it on this map. Then the opponent might finally be getting ready for it properly, and that's when you don't do it. And he's like, oh, well, I got ready for this for nothing, basically.
He's sort of pulling out of gas here, looking for that fast third base. And obviously with the CC first opening, your Reaper isn't going to be able to stop this from happening, so at least that's a small little nice thing for SortOf. He's going to get the third base out with too much fuss. But very much a lull in the action, because it is just a greedy opening for both players.
Yeah, SortOf sees the second command center now, and he knows like exactly what the opener was from HeroMarine. So he can start on this siding, how he's going to make his own adjustments, maybe drone up a little bit extra He's going to be safe for longer than usual.
Yeah, he's already got what he needs against Reaper defense. Everything was well timed for SortOf. Like, this is the normal opener for a Zerg against a Terran going for the Reaper fast expand. So the Lings are already here, waiting to be useful. The Queen gets the Creep Tumor out without tussling with the Reaper, which is always nice. But of course, the Terran's economy means it's going to be a problem in a couple minutes.
I really think that if SortOf can get some early game momentum, you know, and reach a good drone count, it's going to look like a completely different series. But the problem so far has been just that, and being able to get there. And in this game with HeroMarine playing very differently, it should be much easier for SortOf, you know, to build up that walker count, go into that 4th base. Also on the map, you know, like you can take the one that's in between your natural and 3rd base.
Oh, goes to the Creep Tumor, and he gets it too. That's really annoying for SortOf. Doesn't have energy for another Tumor at the moment, so that slows down the creep spread. And considering there's a Marine on the way for HeroMarine, this is actually the beginning of the build order for a BC opening. He's getting those 2 Marines out to deny scouting on these Overlords. It's very, very important when you're going through this BC stuff. Not going to be able to get a Viking out.
I mean, at this point, if you scout
there it is,
the tech lab on the starboard, like you have to know. And in this case, he's even going to be able to see the fusion core.
He actually is going to see the fusion cores this time. So this is a little bit of a glass half full situation for SortOf. The battlecruiser opening has been scouted. Can he deal with it a lot better this time as a result? Sometimes even if you see it coming, you can just, there's players out there that just struggle against the BC opening.
Yeah. And I gotta say, HeroMarine has been so good with those Hellions. Not just, you know, threatening, but not really overextending, which a lot of players will do in this position. Like, you got, you know, 6 to 8 Hellions, one single Reaper. It's like so tempting to say, all right, you know what, let's just go for it. I can try and kill some drones. If I get like 15 plus, it's totally worth it. But then you go for it, and the Zerg splits are good enough. His Lings are in position, the Queens are there too, and then you lose everything and kill only like 3 drones. And you've lost map control. Creep spread's gonna get too crazy for you to be able to handle, and then it's really bad all of a sudden. But HeroMarine has been staying extremely patient with his Hellions every single time. And I know that now, because I say this, he's probably going to overextend and lose everything, but I figured I still say it.
Well, I actually love this from SortOf. This is one of the strongest things you can do against a guy that's opening BCs. You're not going to have Banshees. You're not going to have units that are good against armored units. So something like a Ro16 or a Nidus Worm with a lot of Queens are going to be very strong.
Where does he throw it down? Because he lost the Overlord that was near the base of his opponent.
I think he was dropping it down before the Overlord got taken out. I mean, you can use as a Changeling or a Zergling or something like that.
But he has no Overseer there.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he does, yeah. And
maybe at the front?
Too. I mean, an attack at the front just isn't as stingy. If you get it inside the main, that's where the production is. That's where you really want it.
But how is he going to get the scout inside? I think he's morphing an Overseer.
Yeah, the Overseer is
That's going to take a long time, though. That's like really off timing right now if he goes across the map. Yeah, I think he's flying that in the center right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but there is something on the way.
Yeah, the Overseer is on the way here.
No, there is something at the bottom from HeroMarine. What is that? This Viking is almost like fishing for that.
Yeah, it's looking for it.
So it means like he's going to see it, in which case it's much easier to defend against it. How many Queens and units are loaded up into the Nidus?
I'm not sure if any are just yet. Yeah, they're just scooting around, like dealing with the battlecruiser harassment. You got to be afraid when you're Terran and you see this many Queens. That is a lot of Queens.
Yeah, he's putting the Nidus outside right now.
You got to put it somewhere. So with the Queens pushing forward here, even though he doesn't really have that creep spread at the front, there's that high ground Nidus Worm here. He does have the backup one in front. This tank is really huge. The Lings are going for the natural here. Can SortOf break this line? The Hellions getting surrounded. There's a SortOf's moment. Can he break through these Hellions of HeroMarine? They're on the top of the tank as well. The tank goes down, and the Nidus Worm will pop here in the natural. The main Nidus Worm has popped out as well, but it's got taken down there by those tanks of HeroMarine. And it looks like HeroMarine is starting to hold. SortOf's strategy getting deflected.
Yeah, this is looking really bad, and now that HeroMarine knows, all he has to do is stay put, make sure he defends every single Nidus that's being planted down. It's going to be so hard to get one inside of the main base, so he goes for one outside. But I mean, there are tanks on the high ground now, and that battlecruiser is still going ham on the other side of the map.
Yeah, this battlecruiser is going to make sure that SortOf is even more all in than he already is.
He's got Yamato.
Yeah, he certainly does. The Queens are going to be Yamato down as quickly as he can. The Marines on the high ground also. He has no high ground vision, so these Marines are just mincing up those Queens. And this tank here in the high ground that needs to siege up could seal the deal, but he doesn't even need it. HeroMarine with the cleanest 3-0 that we've seen at this tournament. A great, great series from him. Massive confidence from the German Terran. Great stuff. His TvZ not in question here. One of the best Terrans in the history of StarCraft 2. Looking forward to see how he looks in the further rounds here of this tournament. Oh, man. This guy's got a great stream, great personality, he's good fun. And he showed that this battlecruiser strategy, while it did sort of fall out of the meta a little bit, is still back in action, very, very strong. The Korean Terrans love it, the European Terrans love it.
It's not all about the mechanics, Maynard.
No, sometimes just about the mechanical units.
You need the execution, the builds, the micro, everything. And he adjusted very well as well along the way with that command center first on the third map.
Yeah, certainly. Getting the job done. Good stuff there from Mr. Big Gabe. He's actually got a huge... I'm a massive fan of him for that strategy, for those strategies. But let's just talk to him in general as we're going to the stage here with Smix for an interview with our winner. Take it away.
Thank you very much, guys. Congratulations, Gabe. Not only are you advancing, you do so in very convincing 3-0 fashion. So coming into this series, did you expect it to be as straightforward as it turned out to be?
I thought last year I might have been a little more lucky because I think I got good opponents for the events that I played. This year, however, I played a lot against Cero, I played a lot against Reina, so it wasn't, I got rather harder opponents, but I still managed to get far in a lot of events, and I feel like in this tournament, if I can get like another top 4 finish, maybe I can finally solidify a position where like top players like Reina, Showtime, or Neep are considered or special.
Yeah, and speaking of how this year has been going, I know that at WCS Spring, your run, like you had said, was unfortunately cut off in that round of 16 because of a really close loss against Rainer 3-2. So coming into this event, what were your expectations coming in? Was there a specific opponent that you thought if you just avoided, you could make it really, really far, or?
As always, I think anyone can win against anyone but Cero. Like, Cero beats everybody, and I don't think anyone is favored against him, but we can beat each other pretty nicely. And some of the guys are better against the others. For example, I feel actually more comfortable against Reina than a lot of other players in Europe. So for me, it was quite close in that series in spring to lose to him, because most of the time I win against him. I think this event, there could be, if we both make it to the semifinals, there could be maybe a little bit of a rivalry going on between us.
For sure, and before you get to the semis, of course, you have to take down your next opponent. It's going to be yet another Zerg player. It's going to be either TLO or Laser, and it's interesting because with TLO, you haven't played him recently, but whenever you have, you've beat him every single time in official matches. And a Laser you recently beat in that group stage 2-0, so either way, are you feeling like, okay, I got this?
Against TLO, I feel very confident at the moment. My style is particularly good against TLO styles, and I know his style pretty well. So I would obviously rather play against him. Elaser, on the other hand, even though I beat him 2-0, it's only a best of 3. And that game number 2 against Elaser, that was really quite a game. Like, he actually should have won that easily, but I managed to climb back because he did a couple mistakes, and I feel like at that point where I should have been dead, I did like everything right in order to come back. So it wasn't an easy one at all. It was well fought and a little bit of luck in the end. So against him, it will be very difficult, I think.
Well, at least in this series, you showcased how amazing your TvZ can be. So we'll see how it moves forward in that next match. For now, congratulations once again on securing that round of 16 spot. Kalaris, back to you.